Hey guys, Elizabeth here, and if you're thinking on selling your house on your own, you may want to watch this video. I'm going to give you some really good information and some good tips. So stick around. So if you're thinking on selling your property on your own, there's a couple of good information that I want to give you just so you can set yourself up for success. Number one tip that I want to give you is, and I think that's the hardest thing, right? To come up with the right price, with the right market value. Please do not just go to Zillow and listen to what Zillow's estimate is. Why? Because the way Zillow calculates the property value goes by a zip code. So in Hawaii, it's a little bit harder to do that. Why? Because a house in a corner or a house that is right in front of the ocean or has a better view could be worth more money than the one right across, right? Zillow cannot determine that. And not just that, but also conditions, and there's other things. So you may be able to get more money than what Zillow's estimate is. So it's always good that you do your own due diligence. And what we do as realtors, we always look at what have sold in the area, right? What is your neighbor property sold for and why it sold for that price? What are the upgrades? Were there any credits that were given to the buyers? Was there any major disclosures? Because of course that can affect the value of the property, right? So that's number one, how to come up with the right price and right value. Number two is don't forget to prepare your home uh, for showing it. Why? Because sometimes when a buyer comes into the property, they may not want to see your pictures of your family. Number one, for security reasons, like I always recommend my sellers to just remove personal pictures. Number one, for security, because we don't know who's going to be coming to the property. And number two, because you want the buyer to be able to imagine themselves in the property, right? So when you go to a house and you see pictures of family and things like that, you kind of feel like a visitor. So it's always good that you prepare your home for sale. I always try to stage my listings, for example. Why? Because staged properties, they show so well. So if you can, try to stage it, try to declutter it, try to remove some items from the property, try to make it look pretty, right? We just want to make it look like those magazines, right? So if you can do that, go ahead and do it, because you are going to see that that's actually the best way to market a property. If there's maybe some painting to be done, that's also something that I recommend. Try to pick neutral colors, of course. And like, for example, I always offer my sellers my own opinion on what we could do with a small budget. Sometimes we don't need to remodel the whole kitchen, but we can change a couple things here and there with under $500 or even less sometimes, that you can definitely see that in return. So yeah, try to prepare your home for sale. That's a step two. Step three also is to take professional pictures. I mean, now pretty much everyone is starting to look at properties online. So, of course, even, I mean, I don't know if you can remember when you purchased your own home, didn't you start it online, and probably there were some properties that probably were great, but they didn't even have pictures, or the pictures were taken with an iPhone or a phone. It just doesn't show that well. You want to make sure that you get the buyer interested on, like, this property is something that I want to take a look at it. So make sure that it's so worth it what you're gonna spend on a photographer. For me, that's part of my service that I offer to my clients. I always pay that. I have a photographer that I work on an ongoing basis. So, they have the special cameras, they have the right lighting to use, and things like that. So, yeah, don't forget to invest on pictures. It's going to be so worth it. Okay. The other thing is to don't forget to get ready with all the paperwork, all the documents that you're going to need. For example, like the seller's disclosure statement. Get familiar with the purchase contract. Try to always order a preliminary title report in advance, because we want to make sure that when the time that the buyer comes in, you're able to deliver the property, right, with a clear title. Sometimes I've seen that, for example, I always like to be proactive, and I always get the preliminary title report before we even hit the market. I've seen that sometimes there are mistakes made, not even by us, sometimes by attorneys. Sometimes they forget to release a previous lien on the property. So it's always better to take care of it before. So better to be proactive than to go into escrow and then fall out of escrow, right? We don't want to waste nobody's time. And then learn what are those contingencies that the buyer can cancel the purchase contract, because you will see that the buyer, the contract is more buyers friendly than sellers friendly. So get familiar with what are those contingencies that they can cancel. And if you can, try to remove them way before, right? The sooner you can get rid of those contingencies, the stronger your escrow is going to look like. So don't forget about that. The other thing is, find out how you're going to be marketing the property. How do you want to market it? Are you going to just post it on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia? Do you want to send postcards? Do you want to just put a for sale sign outside? Do you want to put it on the MLS? Of course, what you have to focus on is you're going to have to try to make the buyer's pool as big as possible. Because yeah, you can maybe put a for sale sign, or you can just put it on Zillow, but not everybody looks in Zillow, right? Are you going to be paying a co-op as well? What it means is, are you going to be paying a realtor that can bring a buyer into your property or not, right? And this is something important for you to know, because you may be narrowing down the pool to buyers, more narrow and narrow. The bigger you can make it, the higher price you're going to get. But if you, let's just say you only publish your property in Craigslist, for example, that means that only the people that are looking in Craigslist will see your property. So you may be missing all these other buyers out there that could maybe even pay more money, right? So this is why it can get a little tricky. But yeah, come up with a good strategy plan on where you're going to market. Because again, try to make your buyer's pool as big as possible. That's how you're going to get more money. Okay. The other thing is, I'm just going to give you some tips. And then the tips that I want to give you is, don't forget to disclose. Disclose. Why? Because keep in mind that even after you close a property, buyers can always come back at you and sue you for something that you didn't disclose. So it's always better to disclose. Just say everything that you know about the property. If there's any fixings done, if there's any issues with the property, disclose. So yeah, that's something that I always would recommend every seller. Number 2, be careful with some savvy buyers or investors, because if you're selling by owner, I have clients that they always just like to go to for sale by owners. Why? Because sometimes they're going with the Zillow's estimate, or sometimes they know that there's not that much competition, so they will come and say, hey, I'll buy it cash right now, but for this price. And usually you will be you could possibly be selling it under market value. And what they do, they come, they fix it, they flip it, they make money. So be careful with that type of buyers. The other thing is, don't forget to coordinate the showings. Most likely you're going to have to be present, right, in the showings. We don't want to send somebody that you don't know to your property and they're going to be walking around, with your valuable things, right? So make sure that you know how to coordinate the showings. You have to be present. So sometimes if it's like somebody wants to see the property at 9 a.m. in the morning and you know that those are your work hours, make sure that you have somebody that can help you with this as well. Maybe your neighbor, who knows, right? But that's something to take in consideration. That's why I'm including it as a tip. And then the other thing that I always want to recommend is that don't take it personal. This is why sometimes a lot of people hire realtors like us, because we remove the emotions from the equation. So if you're, for example, in a showing and then the buyer comes in and says, oh, I hate these or I hate that, you could get offended, right? Because it probably was your favorite room, or it was you have memories in this house. So sometimes it's a little hard to remove the emotions when it comes to a transaction. There's going to be a lot of negotiation in between, right? If the buyers request something in the home inspection, it will be a little bit harder to just remove the emotions and say, no, this is what I want. Understand that they could cancel if you don't give them what they want, or, the negotiation process can be a little bit more tricky. So yeah, that's another tip that I can give you. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you like that information, you can feel free to leave any comments, to give me any likes, to subscribe to our channel as well. Don't forget to reach me anytime as well if you have any additional questions or you would like any additional information. I'm here to help. Again, my name is Elizabeth Riva.